Even after 2 decades in business, the best in the game are still reinventing themselves. That's the case with Kanata's March Networks, which recently started tailoring its solution to the burgeoning cannabis industry. We're going to find out how the business is making inroads in this exciting new field this week on Techopia Live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Techopia Live. I'm your host, Craig Lord, the editor here at Techopia. This week, we're somewhere new. We are actually at the offices of March Networks in their very cool demo room where they're showing off their surveillance intelligence technologies. With me this week is the CEO of March Networks, Mr. Peter Strom. Thank you so much for having us and for joining us for this week's episode.
Well, welcome to March Networks, and thank you for having me on the show.
Fantastic. Now, for those who don't know, I know March Networks has been a staple for the Ottawa tech community for nearly 20 years at this point, but what is the solution actually that March Networks is offering here, and what sectors are you giving this new solution to?
Yeah, so we're primarily known as a video security company, video surveillance company, and that's kind of how we started back in the year 2000 when Terry Matthews officially kicked off the company. Mm-hmm. I joined the company in 2003, and initially we were focused primarily on the security space, I would say. And we tended to focus primarily on very large financial institutions, very large retailers, organizations that tend to have hundreds or even thousands of locations. And we're looking at kind of a complex deployments, looking at leveraging the corporate networks to try to centralize their operations. Over time, we've morphed way beyond kind of traditional security and surveillance, and now we focus much more on things like combining video with data analytics as well. Mm-hmm.
Now, for that, over the course of your tenure here, there's been a lot of success at March Networks. You were CEO of the year in 2005 here in Ottawa. There was a big IPO. There was an almost bigger acquisition, and March Networks has changed and thrived through all of that. I'm curious, with the evolution of technology where we are today, you mentioned adding data analytics to video. What is the video industry like right now, where we can actually put a software layer kind of on this surveillance that you were talking about?
Well, that's exactly right. I think a lot of customers and a lot of companies like ourselves, we've all kind of discovered that organizations are spending millions of dollars outfitting either the retail shops or the bank branches or whatever commercial headquarters they may have. They're outfitting those with video surveillance gear. Mm-hmm. And when you start to look at the types of data that people are looking for today to either improve operational efficiencies, understand their customer experience or customer journeys a lot better, they're starting to look at video surveillance and say, we are capturing a lot of valuable data. Mm-hmm. And so what we've gotten to the industry now is starting to realize, how do we add more value to the data we're actually collecting? Mm-hmm. A lot of that comes through by applying analytics to it as well. Mm-hmm. So today we can take all the data we're capturing primarily for security reasons, and now we can apply algorithms and advanced analytics to that and start looking at understanding what customer traffic patterns are in a retail store's environment, mm-hmm. or as an example. Or they may want to look at how long is a queue line at a cash register to find out, do I need to open up another mm-hmm. cash register to keep the customers happy? Those are primarily the retail environment. On the banking side, we also capture a lot of transactional activity as well. So if you have banks today where they may have an issue where maybe they have a fraudulent transaction take place at an ATM, as an example. And what we do is we can capture the video itself, we can capture transactional data, and we can even proactively apply algorithms to look for anomalous type of behavior and very clearly identify to that bank where we think something's taken place that you should be aware of. Then I can search across their entire network of ATMs, find that transaction very, very quickly, and then ascertain whether that's actually a fraudulent activity or not.
But the flag is going up to say, this is where, of the thousands of hours of footage, this is the 5 minutes you can be spending the time on.
That's right. And so it's given a lot of our customers the ability to not just be reactive in terms of seeing, hey, something's happened, let me look at it. We can very proactively pinpoint areas where they should be concerned. And that's really added a lot of efficiency to most security departments, as well as on top of that, being able to add more value to other departments, like a marketing department, as an example. Mm-hmm.
And this past year, March Networks won Best Ottawa Business Award for your performance in sales. And I specifically want to talk about a new industry that you started to tailor your solution to. And it's not one that most people maybe think of, but there's a cannabis application to what March Networks is doing. Is that right?
Yeah, cannabis is obviously, pardon the pun, it's a high growth area. Yeah. I think everybody's used that pun multiple times.
Me included.
But we have identified that several years ago, and we look at several uses where video comes in to be something that's actually required by law. Yeah. And if actually started working with a number of grow ops in Colorado. The state of Colorado was one of the leading states in the United States that started to legislate this. And one of the areas that they need to be very concerned about was the fact that in a grow op, you need to be able to identify exactly how many plants you had growing the entire seed to sale process. And so we partnered with a technology company called Zebra, who makes RFID tags that are used on the plants themselves. And as that plant moves from seed all the way to the growth process, they're capturing where that plant is in the stage in that grow up itself. And we actually incorporate video with that as well. So anytime that plant gets moved along somewhere in the growth process, we have the video evidence to point out exactly where that is. And that's actually a state regulation in the state of Colorado as well as California.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I find interesting about the cannabis market, and especially what you're doing there is any business where you find a regulation and then find the business need, which is meeting that regulation. That's a very interesting application where people might not think about surveillance in terms of the cannabis industry, but as soon as regulation comes along, that immediately becomes top of mind for every company that's trying to claim market share in this wildly changing industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we certainly had the advantage of being based in Canada, and in Canada we've kept a close eye on the cannabis industry for quite some time. So when Colorado and states like California and among other states, and obviously with Canada as well, we certainly had an advantage in the fact that we were also very, very exposed to that market.
And it's interesting you mentioned being located in Canada. Also here in Canada, you're not the only company that's finding success recently. You weren't the only Canada company to win a Best Ottawa Business Award. Companies like Crank Software, UITV, Magnet Forensics, Frisia, and Evidence Partners. I might have even got them all. There's a bit of an award-winning crop here. I'm curious about kind of this local concentration of tech excellence, if you want to put it that way. Why is March Networks choosing to be in Canada as opposed to, say, Colorado, California, these burgeoning markets where you're seeing a lot of business?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at there's a rich history of innovation in Canada itself. Started, primarily in the telecommunication industry, going back decades. That whole culture of innovation has continued on in Canada itself, and going back to the years 2000, we were primarily focused, I would say, probably as our uniqueness to the industry was the fact we approach it from a networking perspective as opposed to a traditional video company, and the networking talent that you have in Canada is unparalleled anywhere in the world. And so we leverage that as much as we possibly can to differentiate ourselves. And over the years, obviously, software has become a key driver behind some of the growth and success of companies in Canada as well. So being able to combine that legacy of telecommunications, networking capabilities, now combined with enterprise level software and embedded development, Canada is a great hotbed to be developing this kind of technology.
For sure, for sure. Well, Peter, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Techopia Live. I think we learned a lot in a short amount of time about surveillance and industries beyond it, the applications in places like cannabis and finance and retail. So it's a very cool space that you've got here. It's a very cool technology you're developing, and it was our pleasure to come here and chat with you a bit about it. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. Now, before I let you go, I want to take a quick moment and thank some of our sponsors, without whom Techopia Live would not be possible. I want to start with Number Crunch, offering virtual CFO services to SaaS firms. There's TD Bank, offering specialized programs for tech firms. There's Pearlie Robertson, Hill & McDougall, a leader in business and tech law. The University of Ottawa Faculty of Engineering, creating the next generation of technical talent. Stratford Managers, helping you scale up your tech ventures, and KRP Properties, offering so much more than just space. It was a pleasure to chat about some of the business, the hotbed of business that the tech park is becoming on behalf of our sponsor, KRP Properties. Now, Techopia Live is not just this fantastic show. You can also catch us online at obj.ca/Techopia with daily articles covering Ottawa's tech scene. You can follow us on social on Facebook and Twitter at Techopia OTT, and if you're watching us on YouTube, please please leave us a like and a comment. We would love to hear from you, and subscribe to see more of our weekly tech interviews. Apart from that, I just want to thank you very much for joining us for this week's episode of Techopia Live, and we hope to see you next week for the next episode. Thanks very much. So.